Have you ever dreamed of doing something your whole life only to find out, once you did it, that you hated it? What was it? Music production, which is what I majored in. As soon as I graduated from college, I realized how much I hate sitting in a recording studio doing the same thing over and over again, only to scrap it and do it over yet again. Turned out to be brutally technical, drawn out and boring with very little reward, and it took all of the fun out of music for me. Even the pros I worked with who were doing objectively well seemed miserable most of the time due to having to work with some truly insufferable people and never getting the recognition they felt they deserved. And half of them were alcoholics, chain smokers, or insomniacs with pronounced depression. Rather than pursue a career in music production, I focused on enjoying being in a band and got a day job to support my hobby. Turned out to be far more sustainable, and once I got married and had a kid, requiring me to take a step back and focus on my family, I had already established myself at a decent job with benefits. I'm not suggesting this is the path one should take, but almost everyone I know who was trying to make it 20 years ago is still struggling to pay bills and gain traction despite whatever talent or success they've had. What I am suggesting is that if you decide to pursue a career in the arts, have something to fall back on. The industry is brutal, it requires constant networking, long hours, and it is very easy to get burned out. Trust me, you do not want to be living paycheck to paycheck in your 40s with nothing to show for it, no benefits, no assets, just an occasional cover band or sound guide gig and a nasty drug/alcohol addiction. And all because you didn't have a backup plan. I grew up feeling passionate about physics and always planned on being a professional physicist. Got my undergrad, started a PhD program, and spent a good time in the program before absolutely hating it. The politics, the narrow spectrum of novel research, the terrible grad school pay, being far from home, etc. got super depressed and had to reevaluate my career, even though I spent so much time on this path. It all wasn't worth a field in which I lost my drive. Ended up leaving the program and working for the government for a few years before returning to grad school for statistics. Best time of my life, and I got a permanent research position at an R1 university in my home state, where I have been to the day. Blacksmithing. I watched a ton of blacksmithing content on YouTube, got super intrigued, and wanted to build my own setup in the backyard. My father talked me into trying a class before jumping in headfirst, and I am glad I did. My father and I were the only two in the class that day, so we got all the attention from the instructor, which was awesome. He really helped us both perfect our techniques and corrected any mistakes quickly so we didn't form any bad habits. It was the best instructor I have ever had for anything. Guy was an amazing teacher. He even offered to let us stay for a couple more hours to make another piece, which we took him up on. After all that, an amazing class, 3 metal pieces that I worked on and created by myself by hand, I walked away. Dissatisfied. I think metal as a medium just felt very hard to work with, everything is super hot and dangerous, and I just didn't see myself wanting to ever do it again. I really recommend taking a class to try something out rather than spending time and money to build your own setup for something you may hate. I spent $75 to save thousands. I heard this story from a friend, and have no reason to believe it's fake, but I never met any of the people involved. There's a couple, the husband really wanted a threesome their entire marriage. The wife always refused, at least partially because they had a kid, and she didn't want their sexcapades to affect the child in any way. Fast forward 20 years or so, the kids are all out of the house, and the husband keeps bringing it up, not sure he ever stopped, really. The wife just so happened to have a co-worker that she was becoming really good friends with, who she also found very attractive, and so one day, prior to the husband's birthday, the wife asked her co-worker if she would be down to join her and her husband. The co-worker said yes. Husband's birthday, the wife surprises him with a threesome. Afterwards, the husband's reaction was, well, that wasn't really the mind-blowing experience I expected it to be. Oh well, my wife is awesome for doing that for me. Now, I might be missing a few details here, but the wife realized she enjoyed being with the other woman far more than she enjoyed being with her husband. She ended up leaving her husband and is now in a committed relationship with the coworker. I know it sounds stupid, but mine was a shopping spree. My family never really had much money, so I could go out on a shopping spree with friends, and if I did go out with them, I was always the one left holding the bags or feeling left out. When I did manage to get a few things for myself on occasion, like if I had birthday or Christmas money, it was always what others wanted me to, or never anything for myself. I truly loved. I felt weird because I was always told girls are meant to love shopping like my friends did, but I just hated it and chalked it up to not having much cash and being dragged about store to store. I came into some money years ago and was able to have a shopping spree. I decided to go alone so I could buy what I wanted without others' influence, but I hated it still. I couldn't justify the prices I knew my friends usual would spend, and I felt so overwhelmed by everything. I also found being alone I could be honest with myself, especially with nobody pushing me to buy their style, and I very quickly realized I was quite alternative/gothic and none of the shops fit my style. I left overwhelmed, sad and disappointed, and realized I never felt off because I didn't have money or felt left out. I felt off because I really didn't like shopping or crowds, and I was not accepting my true style. Oh man, I can apply this. I went to a college that had a cool machine near one of the lecture halls. It was called the NICAP, Induced Coupled Argon Mass Spectrometer. On the window of the lab it was in, it talked about how the argon torch got as hot as the surface of the sun and how it sublimated rock particles in solution, straight solid to gas, no liquid phase. I found out from the geology department that it was a $2 million machine. I wanted to use it, so I became a geology major and made my senior seminar based on geochemical bedrock analysis. I had to go get samples, crush them, put them through other machines to make the distillate that the ICAP could run. I finally got to use it. Just to find out it has a closed system, nothing to see, and spit out a database file so old I had to get an external 3.5 floppy USB drive to get the data off it. It was boring to use and I felt so let down. XD.